Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Burke County Board of Commissioners regular meeting for Tuesday, January the 16th, 2024. Madam Clerk, all commissioners are present along with the county attorney, manager, and our finance officer. I'll remind you to silence all of your mobile devices. If you've got a mobile phone, please set it to vibrate or off. And I'll ask that all speakers that come to our lectern tonight, please ensure the red light is on before you start your presentation. All right, this brings us to our invocation and pledge of allegiance. We're pleased to have Reverend Jeff Lovett with us tonight, retired minister in our area, and we'll ask him to come and bring the invocation, and we'll remain standing for our Pledge of Allegiance. That'll be led by our County Attorney, J.R. Simpson. Let's stand together.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we're thankful to be out here again tonight, this month. The start of the new year. We have hopes and dreams and aspirations for our county, for our city. Help us to be forward-thinking and yet grounded in what is right. I'm thankful, Father, for this community and so many really want to honor you, as is evidenced even in the One Nation Under God that's right behind me. Help us, Father, to be one nation under God. In a time that's filled with doubt, trouble, anger, and uncertainties. Give these men and women, Father, who are here today assembled, wisdom to stand for what is right, to seek what is good, to listen to the community, that there might always be good communication and goodwill among us. Lead us, Father, in the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Please join us in the pledge of the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This brings us to item number 4 tonight, approval of agenda. Gentlemen, you've had the agenda in front of you for several days. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Thank you, Commissioner Burns. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. It's 5-0, Madam Clerk. Come now to approval of meeting minutes. We have before us tonight July 18, 2023 Board of Commissioners regular meeting, August 15th, 2023 Board of Commissioners regular meeting, September 5, 2023 Board of Commissioners pre-agenda meeting, and then September 8th, 2023 Board of Commissioners special joint meeting. I would entertain a motion to approve these minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
Thank you, Commissioner Burns. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. It's 5-0. This brings us to presentations tonight. Tonight we'll begin with our Animal Services for Pet of the Month. Caitlin, come tell us what's happening.
Thank you so much for having us at the start of the new year. We're really excited to present our Pets of the Month to you. I did not bring Miss Lou with me today. As you all know, anytime we have a meeting like this, our dogs like to get adopted. Anytime we try to send animals anywhere, they always get adopted, which is a fantastic problem to have. So Lou was leaving to a foster home. I loaded her up in her car as I was walking to my car, so that's really great for her. But we have other wonderful pets at Animal Services. Miss Lou is a spayed female. She's about 2 years old, and like I said, she is going to try out a home visit to see if she's going to be a good fit with this young family. So we're really excited for her. We have a lot of other dogs out in animal services. I think we have about 27 there this evening. 15 came from one home, and they're smaller, under 30 pounds. So if you guys are looking to add a smaller dog to your home, I would recommend coming down and visiting us at Animal Services. As always, we never want to leave our kitty cats out, so we wanted to recognize Miss Beautiful Marilyn Monroe. She is also about 2 years old and spayed, and she is absolutely stunning. So if you are looking to add a good family cat, she came to us and we thought she was going to be a community cat where she was going to be returned to where she came from because she was a little upset with being with us at first, and then she has turned out to be an absolute sweetheart. So we've kept her on our adoption floor in hopes to find her a really good home for someone. So please come and visit us. I did want to share with you, we had a very big December, so I wanted to share some of our numbers from December with you guys. For December, typically it's a slower month for us because it's one of our winter months. We're very seasonal in animal services. And so we took in 212 animals. 109 of those came from a giant hoarding case right at Christmas time. Our staff absolutely rocked it. Everybody in Burke County, we relied a lot on the other departments, so it was really great to see everybody come together to help us through that. Through that, we adopted, sent to rescue, and returned home 152 animals collectively through all of that, so that was absolutely amazing. And with us being a municipal shelter, our live release rate, so the amount of animals that left our facility alive, was 88%. And if you guys don't know, for us to achieve no kill, that's a 90% live release rate. So we are working very hard to achieve that. We need our community to step up and support us, and I think they're doing a great job of doing that. So I just wanted to share that with you. As always, the best ways to reach us, in person, by phone, or email. Come and visit us. We always welcome new faces. We're a great bunch to get along with, so come and hang out with us.
All right, thank you, Caitlin. Any questions for Caitlin tonight?
How many cats did you say you had?
I did not count the cats before I left, but we were sitting pretty good, probably 20, 25 right now.
Thank you. All right, thank you, Caitlin.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being with us tonight. Excuse me. We're happy to have Paul Holden with us, Regional Director with Community Operations. Evening, Paul.
Good evening, sir, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. It's a little hard to follow Lou and Marilyn, but I'm going to try the best that I can. This is kind of a follow-up to previously a meeting with you in November, and several key questions were asked of me that I've tried to get the answers for you. So I wanted, but first kind of just say in terms of public, I think there's a little bit of a misunderstanding about what Partners Health Management is all about. You know, in the state of North Carolina, the legislature had initially developed 6 public health agencies that dealt with mental health, substance use, and intellectual disabilities. As of January 1st, it's moved to 4. I think that the legislature is looking to maybe be able to deal with less agencies and to be able to get more forceful in terms of accountability for what Medicaid does with regard to mental health and substance use. So in terms of partners, we're kind of like a general contractor. We work with agencies in the community. They sign contracts so that we can kind of keep them accountable for the Medicaid members that they work with. Also, I think the main mission of a managed care organization, which is what we're termed MCO, is to help keep costs even as best they can and predictable every year for the legislature. That's the idea behind it. So that that's the reason why we have contracts with all of our agencies. I guess that's a good thing to say. The only other thing I would add is that Partners doesn't provide direct service to any of our Medicaid members. I mean, we have care managers who help to facilitate the agencies that certain folks might seek out, but we don't provide direct services, and so I think sometimes that's not understood by the general public either. So there were 2 things that you had asked of me. One was about who are the providers in this community and what do they do. So I provided you with a list of 22 that are housed in Burke County that work with Medicaid membership. Now remember, you don't have to work with Medicaid if you're an agency that you don't need. If you want to work with insurance, you can work with cash, you don't have to work with Medicaid. These are just main agencies in Burke that work with Medicaid members. And so I gave you those smattering of that. And then the second question related to that had to do with, and what do they do? So the and just remember that for partners, we only deal with mental health, substance use, and intellectual disabilities. So majority of the tasks or things that those folks do are they assess, come in to kind of be able to route them in the right direction that could help them. Or they actually are seen. A majority of them have outpatient, which means that that's the kind of thing where you go into an office generally, and you, whether that's a mental health or a substance use issue. So that's primarily what those two providers mean for you. The thing I think is kind of important for the commission to know is that there are collaborative groups that meet in this community. So I'll cite two of them just so you know. Burke Community Collaborative, which is a lot of folks that actually provide direct services, meet on a monthly basis, and they talk about the issues that are there for Medicaid membership and where are the gaps in services, and if there is any way for agencies to work together to provide better services for folks. That's one thing that the Community Collaborative does. Another group is called BSAN, the Burke Substance Abuse Network, which is a really high-powered group of folks in this community that are committed to substance use and addictions, but they are firmly focused on recovery. And so that group meets monthly also the last Friday of the month and does a lot of good things in this community. So just so you know, agencies just aren't out there by themselves and just operating with the services they offer. They're communicating with each other and try to do the best service possible for Medicaid members in this community. So that was the first part. The second part had to do with when people present for substance use issues, what's the main percentage of folks in terms of anything? So I can tell you I have some statistics, but what I would tell you is this. Our information is only based on Medicaid membership, and for those who actually have sought services, and then they've invoiced partners. So it's only a snapshot. It's not everybody, but I think it's probably a pretty accurate snapshot of what's going on in Burke County. So in terms of substance use issues, I'll just cite three of them. For the last year, with regard to Medicaid members, there were 231 that sought services. Of those 231 members, 33% were presenting for opioid issues. 25% were presenting for stimulant issues, and so that could mean a range of things, but in most circumstances, cocaine actually is a stimulant. And then medications for attention deficit. Sometimes people use those when someone else has a prescription and they use that for their own services. And 19% were for alcohol addiction. So that's just to kind of give you just a little bit of a flavor of what's happening in Burke County. But again, I just would tell you that's just for our statistics based on Medicaid membership and those that have sought services. So it's not the entire picture. So I hope that answers the two major questions that you asked. I wonder if you had any further questions of me at this point.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Any questions for Paul this evening?
Okay. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for being with us again tonight. I'll entertain a motion to accept this report as presented.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to accept the report.
Thank you, Commissioner Smith. All those in favor indicate with uplifted hand. It's 5-0. This brings us to Parks and Recreation Subcommittee regarding trail and park projects. This is going to be presented by Alan Glines, our Planning Director, and Sarah Shabane, our Planning Trails Specialist.
Thank you, Chairman Britton, Commissioners, and members of the public. I'm happy to represent our recently developed Parks and Recreation Subcommittee as we share new work and projects concerning parks and trail development in Burke County. I'm privileged to introduce Sarah Shabane, who is our recently hired trail planner who will provide for this presentation on this topic. Thank you. Sarah.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Pleasure to be here with you tonight. I am excited to share with you some updates for what we've got going on in Burke County. Parks and Trails are aligned with the Board of Commissioners Focus Area 1 of Community Advancement. Burke County stewards a robust trail program and initiates park projects that are an investment in cultural capital, which makes us a community of choice by providing a thriving environment to live, work, and play. A Parks and Recreation Subcommittee was created to implement components of the board's strategic plan. The 8 members of this cross-division committee meet every 6 weeks to review progress and combine resources on a variety of projects. We can see those 8 members listed here. We are currently using a couple of different pots of funding. Within our state and federal funding monies right now, this is about $385,000. And these are specifically for trails. This is not for all Parks and Recreation or the subcommittee itself. The county funding has allocated $2.2 million to be used from 2023 to 2025, as well as our program partners, Friends of Fauna Flora State Trail and Over Mountain Victory State Trail. These partners provide the allocated funding from the state Division of Parks and Recreation, Complete the Trails Fund. So those partner organizations distribute that allocated state funding to section sponsors and projects. Some goals of this presentation are to review the accomplishments of the county and our program partners, to provide updates from the Parks and Recreation Subcommittee, and then also an opportunity to renew consensus on the work plan as we have an updated alignment with the project approach for the review of the commissioners, the county manager, and the general public. We'll also use this presentation to guide and provide context for annual budget requests and allocations. This presentation will be posted on the website and be available to the public, as it is a guiding document for everyone to know with transparency where we are headed in the next couple of years. As this is a living document, it will be updated annually to reflect opportunities and constraints that may arise. 2023 to 2022 had some really great projects and accomplishments. The Harris Wisnett Trailhead parking lot is currently under construction and will provide approximately 7 spots and 1 ADA parking spot. This location is the current terminus of the Fauna Flora State Trail and the most easily accessed from the city of Morganton. Progress on the Canal Bridge project is truly a community effort to provide a safe pedestrian bridge crossing and a valuable link in connecting state park parcels. We are currently awaiting final construction documents and a cost estimate from Mattern and Craig engineers. From there, the county will enter into an MOU with NCDOT, where there will be an initial review process of 60 to 90 days through their district and structures offices, as this is a bridge project, so they do need a lot of oversight on this. They will also manage the construction of this project. The county has paid for engineering and design thus far, and our program partners have committed to cost sharing in this project. We are also exploring some opportunities for a trailhead in this area, which will include parking. The Lake James Camping Resort and Marina also had an easement recorded to expand an opportunity of 0.8 miles of trail. The county concurred on the location of the Patty's Creek Trail easement below the dam, which has been surveyed by the State Historic Preservation Office, and once approved by Duke Energy's legal office, that assignment will be provided to Burke County. With some of our partners, we've also had some really exciting progress. The Watermill Road boating access area had some much needed updates. The Pisgah Gamelands Forest Restoration Project has been underway for a couple of months and included in that temporary MOU with North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission. They'll be building an overlook to Lake James from a historic fort site filmed from the Last of the Mohicans. So we're really looking forward to that. In partnership with Over Mountain Victory State Trail, we've had great traction and community support on multiple connectivity projects. With the Friends of Flora State Trail, volunteers have donated over 342 hours of trail maintenance, which is pretty significant, and that's specifically just to Burke County, not on the whole entire trail. We have had a project team kickoff at Jonas Ridge entering into phase 2. That team has spent some time with staff on site conducting a site analysis, which will include a wetland and architectural analysis. The project team is developing schematics for future use there, and the existing structure appears to be sound. Brodhiss Road convenience site and former landfill will undergo required closure procedures as the new East Burke collection and solid waste site is being built with an anticipated opening in spring of 2024. The county will hire a firm to conduct a highest best use analysis that will identify options for future use for this unique asset. The analysis will be able to provide site feasibility for the board to consider in decision making as for this community resource. Just a little bit of frame of reference of where that is. If you missed it on the map, it's kind of where that mouse is, up in that corner right there. A mountain biking community survey was recently conducted to explore the community's interest in expanding the types of mountain biking trails we have in the area. Offering more variety in the complexity of trails will provide our community and surrounding area with more diverse experiences and reaching a wider user group. Some of the key takeaways from this survey were that 55% of the respondents ride mountain bike trails weekly, which is pretty significant that these are people who are working, families, not just retired individuals. So that means that they take mountain biking pretty seriously as far as recreation and exercise. 69% of these participants stated that the difficulty and variety of the trail played an important to very important role in the choice of biking destination. We are looking at opportunities to expand at Fauna Flora County Park with the types of mountain biking trails, as well as Reed County Park by considering a 3-mile loop in the area. So kind of transitioning to trails, and just to give us a frame of reference for what is currently in Burke County, as far as Fauna Flora State Trail and Over Mountain Victory State Trail, the west side right here, where it is white and orange, is the shared trajectory, shared location of both of the state trails. We currently have this portion all the way completed, and that Harris Wisnet Trailhead that I just mentioned will be right here, so that's a pretty big deal to have the access in that area. We'll be focusing in on the west side of this expansion and repair. We are currently in the process of developing a request for qualifications with our partners, which would be a 3-part project document allowing us to expand through the enclave with existing easements towards the Pisgah Preserve neighborhood, which will take the Fauna Flora State Trail to the McDowell County line. In this, we also have 1.7 miles of repair in the 1780 neighborhood. This portion of the trail was potentially built around 2005, and it has some severe erosion issues and very much in need of repair, especially in order for us to apply for state designation of the Fauna Flora State Trail and Over Mountain Victory State Trail. It is currently a national historic trail, so there is some distinction in the layers of those. That expansion will also connect, wrong button. One more, there we go. That expansion will connect the state park parcel right here to the Lake James Camping Resort and Marina. So that's that 0.8 miles that I just mentioned. We are underway of being able to post that RFQ this month, and we hope to return to the board in April to award that contract with the final scope of work. Here we are, Fauna Flora County Park. So there are about 250 acres that are owned and leased by the county. 131 acres were transferred from Crescent Resources to Burke County in 2014, and 119 are leased from Crescent around in 2017. So it is this peninsula right here. In this area, we have pretty good parking, 44 parking spots. There are directly 4.7 miles of hiking and biking trails in the county park, as well as access to 15 plus miles of trail in the area. There are seasonal restrooms, there's a covered bridge feature, and really amazing views of Lake James. In 2024, the second half will also be undergoing, there we go, showing you where that is on 126 on Lake James, across from Fish Hatchery Road. Really beautiful area. So we'll be undergoing a request for qualifications process in the second half of 2024. And this will allow us to develop a master plan that will incorporate site analysis, recreation uses, community outreach, land management, growth opportunities, and funding eligibility. The long-term implementation will be reflective of our existing precedents for quality. We anticipate an increase of visitors when a new boat ramp opens in May 2025. The boat ramp will be expanded from the road that is currently built in the county park, and Duke has an engineering firm that is working on that project. The creation of this of community interest and vision from the commissioners. We hope to have a board to bring out with the final scope of work, again returning to the board in August. From the years 2025 through 2026 will be a lot of implementation. We'll continue to move forward with land and easement acquisition to fill in connectivity gaps. And as we continue expanding the trail, we'll incorporate important amenities like signage and parking to allow people to know where we are. We'll be implementing those RFQ documents supporting the growth of the Fauna Flora State Trail and Over Mountain Victory State Trail into McDowell County, as well as connecting Lake James State Park. The Patty's Creek Trail and Trailhead will have the opportunity for about 2.4 miles of new trail, again that's below the dam, as well as the Fauna Flora County Park Master Plan, where we can hopefully include some new infrastructure and features to support that growth. We'll have opportunities at the Linville Dam and Pocket Park by Duke to also build some infrastructure in a kind of unique outlook, again, on Lake James that maybe have listed as Eagle's Nest or Eagle's Overlook in some of our previous documentation. To give a frame of reference of the widespread work that we'll be doing, through 2024 through 26, we'll be implementing the updates through 2.2 miles of new trail, expanding again to McDowell County line, those repairs, as well as a expansion of 0.8 miles in the Lake James Family Camping Resort and Marina. This year, we'll be undergoing the updates to Canal Bridge through cost sharing again with our partners. In 25 through 26, we'll be working on the opportunity to have those unique features at Patty's Creek and potentially be able to build that new section of trail as well. 25 through 26 will also be planning for park and infrastructure there. With that, that's pretty much a summary of where we're headed in the next couple of years. I appreciate the opportunity to share these updates with you, the public, and with my coworkers, and I'm happy to take any questions.
All right, thank you, Sarah. Any questions for Sarah tonight on the Parks and Rec projects?
Mr. Chairman, Sarah, I spoke with Treg. I know he's somewhere back there somewhere. And, you know, there's that opportunity to work with McDowell Community College and their Trails program for existing repairs, for building more trails. So I assume that's going to be pursued pretty heavily in the master plan.
We've showed them and given a couple of locations that could be used for their classes as an opportunity for them to kind of do some hands-on, as well as opportunities to actually pay them and work with them for some of those repairs.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions for Sarah? All right, hearing none. Sarah, thank you for your presentation tonight. I'll entertain a motion to accept this report.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Boyd, all those in favor indicate by that with the hand. It's 5-0. We have no scheduled public hearings tonight. This will move us into informal public comments. I'll remind speakers that there's a 3-minute limit for public comments. And at this time, Madam Clerk, we'll hear our first speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, ladies and gentlemen of the audience. I would call Mr. Locke Hoffman.
Thank you very much for letting me do this. You know, the acoustics in here are horrible. I'm deaf and it's so echoey. I just thought I'd mention that. I've been thinking about doing this for 30 years. And I thought, well, I'll turn 75, I've got nothing to lose, so let's go ahead and do it. At the beginning of 2023, I made the decision to move my economic and social life from Catawba County to Burke. Because of some unfortunate experiences I had in Catawba County. And to my surprise, I found out that Morganton's a better place to shop. The people are friendly, it's convenient, everything's great about it, better than Hickory, except for the library. I still have to go to Hickory for the library. I'm an inveterate reader since childhood. I'm retired now. I have time on my hands. I want to read. When I went into the Burke Library 2 years ago, there was nothing in there for me to read. I talked to the director, Mr. Wilson. He said their book fund was so small they didn't have any money for serious fiction or very much nonfiction. And so I decided that I would kind of check it out. I've been going to the library board meetings for 2 years. I've attended the last 7 meetings. I got that wrong on the papers. 2022 is when I began this project. And of the 7 meetings I've attended, only 2 meetings are actually held. The other 5 lacked a quorum. And therefore there were only perfunctory decisions made. Basically, Wilson just told them what they were going to do, and that was the end of it. My son-in-law made a mistake of asking a question during the meeting last year, one of them, and Mr. Wilson threatened to call the police on us and have us arrested. You know, I didn't pay much mind to that, but I thought it was very inappropriate. I think I should be able to speak, and so should my son-in-law. But more importantly, at that meeting, they okayed $20,000 and change for a policeman for uptown Morganton because the librarians are frightened of the Morganton street people. And, you know, I've lived in New York City and several other smaller cities, and I found this assertion both laughable and fiscally unsound. Of course, we're suffering in America through a gun violence epidemic. But you know, I haven't heard of any library shootings anywhere. And is Morganton really that dangerous? I mean, no police are needed for Valdez or Hildebrand. So I decided to check out the situation. I went in the library. I said, is a policeman here? They said, oh yeah, he's here. Well, I hunted for him. No, he's not there. Couldn't find him. Searched the whole place except for the ladies' room. He could have been hiding somewhere. It seems to me that we need a little bit of more oversight to the library. We need people on the library board who actually come to meetings. Here's a picture of the meeting. It wasn't a meeting because only 4 people showed up, plus me and my family. And I really think that, you know, it got my attention when Mr. Wilson threatened to call the cops on me. I'm thinking, what has he got to hide? Why is he behaving like that? I think we need an audit and see what is going on at the library. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hopper. Madam Clerk?
Is Mr. Ron Michaud in the audience? Jennifer Reed?
Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Sure. Jennifer Reed, 5640 Robartigan Woods, Nebo, North Carolina, 28761. Right on the edge of Burke and McDowell County. Time has started. Okay. Today, thank you for having me. Thank you for the moment to speak. But today, I would like to point out that developers make gobs of money from developing. So my topic is development. When I was at Freedom High School, Burke County's first Walmart at the exit of 64 and 40 appeared. This development is now a dim shadow of what it was developed to be. All I can say is thank the Almighty for Rural King. It's a great store and it's keeping the development alive. By developing, money comes by moving around dirt, tree trunks, with photo op shiny hard hats, ego boosting signs, names in big letters. Developers buy cement culverts, heavy plastic, and they bring in companies from the outside often to do the work. Development has nothing to do with the final product, be it a communist China battery factory called a mega site, a chain plant, or a temporarily hot product. Developers don't make a product. Developers talk about future jobs to distract from the future of retention ponds and hobos sleeping behind the empty buildings 10 years down the road. Here are a few Burke County developments that are now derelict ghost towns, abandoned by their owner. The Colonel's Pantry and KFC near my old high school, Freedom, and Highway 70. Once flourishing, it's now terrible because money is made developing across the street and developing catty corner. The build-to-suit industrial opportunity between Cathy Road and Cosby. Build-to-suit, come on world, but the world is only halfway come. So focus simply just moves down another interstate exit. The money is being made by cutting down our hills. The money is being made by a developer getting a brother-in-law contract for a grading company. He swaps favors with a wastewater management company, throws some clout to an insurance company to ensure the whole operation. And yes, the United States should create their own riches and harvest their own resources. But in my mind, Burke County developers and foreign investors who ultimately fund China and Russian wars are not the ones to do it. Using short-term destruction of land to make flash in the pan developer money, not long-term responsible successes. All previous developments took away from downtown Morganton and downtown Marion, so there's this always constant real struggle to keep life in downtown. It's easier and it's a moneymaker for developers to get the North Carolina taxpayer to tear up new land rather than fix the old developments. So today, I ask for you to encourage your developers to take their bulldozers to the previous developments, remake those instead of raping new land that's going to be a ghost town in 10 years. Do not rezone industrial for the mega site. North Carolina, do not use my tax money for greed. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Carla Kincaid.
Good evening, Carla Kincaid, 126, Highway 126, Morganton, North Carolina. First of all, I didn't get to attend the last meeting, last meeting of the year, so I'd like to thank you gentlemen for allowing me to speak throughout the year. And I stand here today again at the beginning of the year, and thank you for allowing me to speak. Thank you also for attending our MLK services. It was good to see you that attended there at the NAACP. I was there as well. I've got a book here that says King Remembered, and it's actually got excerpts from his letter he wrote in the jail while he was in the jail cell. And actually, I got this discarded at the WII, which was the Western Youth Institute at that time. I'd just like to say that I continue to stand here today, and you know why I'm here is because of the flags, as well as the monument, which represented a lot of the things that happened during that civil rights movement. All through this book, you can see it, and anywhere you see anything that happened in the civil rights movement, you're going to see those Confederate flags, not just the statues, but Confederate flags. Also, I'd like to say that as long as I live, I guess I did my own little civil rights movements within. I've been part of that, but I went against something. It was just something within me, just like I have a little movement going on right now, you know, that I don't go uptown around the courthouse square. I haven't been there, haven't taken part in the new part of it. So that's just a stand. And those are things that I do. And I can remember as a girl, as a young daughter, of course, you know, back in those days, we did, our parents taught us how to clean houses and go and clean for different people. So I can remember one that I'm really proud of, and it gives me encouragement, and this is what brings me to who I am, besides the point of the fact that I was born on January 14th. And sometimes it's kind of hard to suppress, not that I believe in Capricorns and Tauruses and all this, but I feel like I have that feeling and that characteristic that I just don't suppress what I believe in. And I don't know if that's got anything to do with Capricorns being born around that time of 14th, 15th, when Dr. Martin Luther King was born. I don't know. But I've always felt that I should speak out and speak up. And I can remember as a young girl going to a person's house here in Morganton, North Carolina, cleaning up, as I was taught to do. And she asked me to go downtown to, I think it's near Young's Shoes, to pick up her some things from the seamstress maybe. And I forgot who was there at that time because I vividly remember it. And I went down to pick up the clothes, and the lady said, "Oh, Miss Such and Such did say her maid was coming by." Well, I didn't say anything to me. Well, I did say something to her. I said, I'm not her maid. I beg your pardon." Before I could get back to that lady, they had called her and told her she was angry because I had embarrassed her, and let those ladies know that, you know, I'm not anybody's maid, and I never will be. And so that's why I stand up. I was fortunate enough to go to college so that I would never have to wash a window or clean ever again for anybody. And so that was one of my little civil rights movements within myself as a young girl that I today hold dear in my heart. And there's several other little things that I do as well, but those are one. That's one, because there's little moments coming up a lot. Not only for me, I'm sure it's brothers and sisters, other brothers and sisters probably don't even stand up for themselves. But that's just who I am. That's why I continue to come. And that's why I think that the Confederate monument should be moved or took down. And that will happen in years to come, whether it's an act of God or not. And that's why I come. And that's why I stand alone, because I got my own stories. I thank you for your ears. Y'all have a blessed new year.
Thanks, Kenny. Right.
Caroline Urban.
Good evening, gentlemen. I'm Caroline Avery, 115 Riverside Court. And I'm a member of Burke Coalition for Reconciliation, and I thank you for this opportunity to speak. And I want you all just to know how much I appreciate your public service to this county. I know it's hard. I know it's hard to keep a county like Burke County unified. And I understand it's a sacrifice, and I'm grateful to each of you. I appreciate it so much. As you all know, yesterday was Martin Luther King Day, and I was so heartened to see Mr. Carswell and Mr. Burns at the banquet that was the NAACP put on Saturday night to remember Dr. King's legacy and to remember his life. I know we're all on the same page on this, and it was impossible for me not to speak to you all tonight just to remind you, I know that we are unified and we believe in the same things. We want unification for this county, and I believe that's what Dr. King stood for. He believed in unifying this country. He loved the United States of America, just like I know each of you do. And he wanted what was right for this country. The truth is just right in front of us. We all know it. You all know it. That monument was put up 50 years after the Civil War, okay? The original monument was put up remembering the deceased Confederates who died during the Civil War. 7 years later, a 9-foot tall statue was put up. Wonder why that was put up. It wasn't to unify. That statue was not added to unify this county together. It wasn't added to spread the love to people. You all know that. It was added to threaten. It was added to keep African Americans in their place. It was an idol to look like that we won the war against the United States of America, which we didn't. It was a threat. It was not a unifier. It was something to divide. Symbols are so important, especially when they sit on the center of our courthouse lawn. Especially when they're symbols that do not unify us. They draw us apart. I know that you all deeply love the people of this community. And I ask you all to look very carefully at what sits on the center of our central gathering place and think hard about it. I know it's hard to do the right thing, but it's never the wrong time to do the right thing. I'm grateful for each of you, and I mean that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Avery. Madam Clerk?
Ann Chapman?
My name's Ann Chapman. I live at 5909 Old Highway 70 West, or Old Highway 70 Loop. I ain't quite got that straight because they keep changing it on me or something. I only have 3 minutes to share in a short time to explain why I know this rezone megasite is ludicrous, horrible, and dangerous. It's a dangerous idea. Your sentiment should be the same as if you live in, since you live in Burke County or all along the 225 miles down the Catawba River. When 1,346 acres of beautiful land are destroyed, it will never be the same. Do you realize that the carbon plant is on 108.723 acres, and with 1,346 acres, 12.3 carbon plants could be placed in that area? Isn't that a lovely thought? I grew up in Carbon City beside the Rutherford Electric, and I saw and smelled the pollutants bellowing out of the smokestacks from the carbon plant, and my feet would be black on the bottom just from walking out on my front porch to get the newspaper. Rutherford Electric purchased my parents' house, and we were able to escape the city of carbon. I fell in love with the home in Bridgewater area that was quiet and peaceful. I can utilize it for gardening, farming, and land and livestock. I love my day and night sky, and I have my own personal planetarium. I don't know how many of you love to look outside, but I have a great view. Please don't rob me, my family, my neighbors, or my community of this hidden treasure and of our property rights. Don't give away access to our railroads or highways for dangerous and lethal chemicals to be hauled, putting Burke residents' lives at risk. I would not expect you to give up your home or land or water or safety or health or resources for such an unnecessary travesty. Yet you're willing to take your own mega Titanic ticket and force me to go with you. The reference is from the Indie Week of November 2021. It's called Pollution Hotspots in North Carolina, and it's quoted, "The hundreds of people who live closest to the SGL carbon plant in Morganton are breathing air so polluted that they face a lifetime cancer risk 120 times greater set by the EPA. Each year, SGL Great Lakes is allowed by the state to emit nearly a ton of methane chloride and 174 pounds of benzene, both carcinogenics. This was only the air pollution data. Also near the carbon plant, there are 4 hazardous waste sites as well as multiple leaking underground petroleum storage tanks. If you magnify just the known pollution from the carbon plant, now times 12.3, you are inviting serious consequences. No matter what type of industry you place on 1,346 acres of land, you're creating a homicidal time bomb, mega worse than the 2006 Synthron explosion. With all the land stripped and trees cut, there is no protection or way to filter out air or take away resources. And I guess my time is up, but anyhow, 3 minutes, you can't say enough to stop this."
Thank you, Ms. Chapman. Madam Clerk?
Dudley Green?
Good evening, commissioners. I'm no kin to the Dudley Green, McDowell County, if you'd like to know, not at all. And I'm here about the mega site up here at the county line. On the one hand, there's a dichotomy here. You say Burke County's nature's playground, and it is. And your Parks and Recreation are doing a great job of helping that fact. But on the other hand, you don't want to destroy nature, and you want to put a mega site right beside the main tributaries into the upper Catawba River, which supplies drinking water for 2 million people. Most of the people in this county, the municipalities and the people in this county get their water from the Catawba River. And yet, you want to pollute it.
or something. I can't understand why you're not, Mr. Woods will not say who's coming into this mega site. What is the big secret? Why has there never been a formal question and answer session about this mega site? It seems like it's all been kept real quiet. And I feel like when you go in the closed door here, it says right here under number 13, you discuss economic development matters. You don't discuss them in public. You do it in the back room. To me, that is low down. And I just don't think it's right. I think all your decisions are made there. You haven't taken the public's ideas or cares or anything into account. And I don't appreciate that. You won't answer the questions, but I'd just like to know how long this has been in the process with the state. The state doesn't just hand out $3.5 million. You know, it takes them years or forever to do anything economically. So this has been going on for quite some time, if you ask me, because I saw the date on the check in the newspaper was October the 9th, 2023. So somebody's trying to hide something here. I don't know what it is, but I don't appreciate it. And 2 million people get their drinking water out of this river from here all the way to the ocean in South Carolina. And this county gets almost $30 million a year on tourism. But you want to destroy nature. You want to pollute this river possibly. And this county gets over $5 million in taxes from tourism in this county. It's like cutting off your nose to spite your face. It's absolutely not right. And I don't appreciate it. And I just like to let the people know that they're in here or who are watching online that the people involved with this were Senator Warren Daniel and Representatives Tim Moore, Hugh Blackman, Dudley Green from McDowell County, Warren Daniel. And there's going to be consequences. There's going to be an election. And there are 3 members on this board coming up for information for everybody in here. That's Jeff Britton, Scott Mulwee, and Johnny Carswell. We might not be able to stop it, but we can change the process. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Green. Madam Clerk?
Sherry Cowbell Conte.
Good evening. I want to thank you first for letting me speak in front of you tonight. I'm here for our animals, the ones that are being neglected and abused, and we can do nothing about, or that's what I've been told. We have laws in place for this, which Officer Banner, I have talked to him several times, and he just tells me there's nothing he can do. I listen to these dogs cry and ask for help every day. They're no bigger, maybe 2 pounds bigger than her. They live on a chain outside 24/7. They are skin and bones. They have minimal shelter. They're just neglected and abused. I just don't understand why we have laws in place that we cannot enforce. It's just no life. The dogs, they can't. God gave dogs 4 legs so they could run. These dogs cannot run. They cannot play. They cannot chase a ball. They live on a chain their whole life. I've tried to help these people with food, help them with the shelters. Now they've got a restraining order against me, and I can't even go over there and help them now. So I call Officer Banner to see if he's gone and checked on them. He tells me even before he goes over there that there's nothing he can do, before he sees the condition they're in. I helped them for a couple months. and they were looking pretty good. But now, they're not doing very well. And I don't understand why there's nothing we can do. Animals don't have a voice. We speak for them. That's what I'm trying to do, is help these that I know of, but there's many, 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 many more. I would just like to know why we have laws in place to help these animals, but yet we can't help them. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
That's all the cards I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate all public comments tonight. This will bring us to our consent agenda, and I'll ask our county manager to review that for us, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Fairly concise consent agenda for consideration. Each of these items, as a reminder, included in your packet and presented at your pre-agenda meeting earlier this month. Item 1 from our clerk is a request from Rutherford College to remove Daniel Odom and replace him with Caitlin Smith as their plat review officer. Item 2 for consideration is to consider multiple appointments and removals, all included in your packet, for our local emergency planning committee. Item 3 from our emergency management fire marshal department are updates to our emergency operations plan. That's EOP, are all administrative in nature, and this is an annual approval process. Item 4 from the tax department is your monthly collection report for December 2023. And finally, item 5 for consideration is your release and refund report for December 23. Mr. Chairman, happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Manager. Any questions on the consent agenda? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the consent agenda be approved as presented.
Thank you, Commissioner Burns. All those in favor indicate with uplifted hand. It's 5-0, Madam Clerk. Have several items for decision tonight. First item will come from our county manager, then reference to courthouse renovations. Mr. Manager.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. What I'd like to do, with your permission, is briefly run through a few slides. Again, we've talked about this at length at your pre-agenda meeting, but to describe really the evolution of this project and investment into our courthouse, and also allow, again, with your permission, our clerk of court is here and would like to speak to, as a stakeholder and an end user of the building, maybe some of the need. And I saw her walk in, so we certainly appreciate her leadership and really all the members of this team that have helped bring this to fruition tonight. But I'd start just by like to review some of the capital priorities of the county's capital improvement plan, provide a little bit of background about how we've arrived here with this courthouse analysis, and then close with a recommendation on procurement model and who that relationship would be as we've worked through an RFQ over the last several weeks. So I'd start by just pointing out that our current courthouse was built in the mid-1970s. It's had two minor renovations, one in 2011 and then again in 2020. Overall, the building, I like to say that its biggest strength is also its biggest weakness. So the biggest strength of the building is its structural integrity. It was built in the mid-70s. It's a poured concrete construction model. So you literally have 12-inch concrete beams that the building in the bones, and it is structurally sound. But that level of and that type of construction really eliminates any type of adaptation that the building is able to keep up with over time. So as you change where people sit, you change the way the building is meant to operate and flow over time. And as you can imagine, now that the building's 50 plus years old, those needs have changed over time, and the building's ability to really adapt has been challenged. As you are aware, back in 2020, the county partnered with Mosley Architects, so it's an architectural firm from Charlotte, to do a facilities assessment. They looked at every building in the Burke County index and really evaluated those buildings based on 6 systems, everything from the structural integrity through security, plumbing, mechanical, electrical, and interior. And they gave those buildings a 1 through 5 ranking in each of those systems, 1 being very poor, 5 being that it's brand new. Here's an excerpt out of that study, an executive summary, and you can see there the courthouse total score was about a 2.6, which again was elevated because of its structural components, but really pulled down because of some of the mechanical, some of the roofing needs, the building adaptation and envelope needs. That's why the project landed on your capital improvement plan. This was the part of the inaugural 5-year capital improvement plan that the board approved back in April. And this was as identified as a short-term deliverable, recognizing that that's really a heavily used civic space. The functions and the volume of people that use that building on a regular basis is pretty high, and it's a critical part of what we offer to our community. After the April approval as part of the CIP plan as a short-term deliverable, we put together what I would call a project scope and goal development team. We met over at the courthouse on the 27th of July. A variety of folks. We had county administration. We had stakeholders from both the judicial side, obviously the clerk and the district attorney, everyone that had an opportunity to provide some input. We did an extensive building tour and really developed, as I'll share in just a moment, what we thought was a comprehensive, mutually beneficial kind of group of goals and principles for the project. And that's led through what happened a few weeks ago on January the 10th, which is where we posted an RFQ, a request for qualification, asking qualified design, engineering, and construction teams to submit proposals about why they may be the most prepared and adequate, competent firm to partner with the county on this project. We had a 5-member selection review team who's made a recommendation that I'm prepared to recommend to the Board of Commissioners tonight. And then ultimately, if approved by the board, that same team would add on a few members that would manage logistics, as we know that making improvements to a building that is in continued use will require some logistical pre-construction strategies. So the goals, the principles, if you will, that team came up with, number one, we wanted to address the building envelope and infrastructure needs. That's things like HVA mechanical upgrades. So there's 3 major mechanical systems in the building, 2 of which have already been replaced, 1 of which is really in dire need. There's also some roofing needs that need to be evaluated. We wanted also to really address space decompression. And what I mean by that is there's a tremendous amount of square footage in the building right now that's not being used. When the magistrate moved over to the jail, that space hasn't been backfilled. When the county outsourced child support and social services that was in the basement of that building, it hasn't been repurposed. And it hasn't been repurposed because, again, that building adaptation really doesn't allow itself to be used in the highest and best way without some construction investment into the space. So we want to utilize a higher percentage of the existing square footage. We want to have improved record retention strategies and then allow for an expanded footprint in the district attorney's administrative space and the clerk of court. Both of those functions are at absolute capacity in their administrative footprint. The district attorney's office, I believe, is as we work towards a consolidated district with Caldwell County, is expecting to receive at least 2 additional ADAs, assistant district attorneys. Every office in their suite is totally full, and as I'll show you in a moment with a quick optic, they're literally having to use their hallway as storage. In the clerk's office, it's similar. I think Crystal can speak to that certainly better than I, as someone who operates in that business on a day-to-day basis. But the administrative function there on the ground floor, where her team just has to meet customers every single day, is really cramped. It's not elastic in how they are able to use it, and record retention is a real challenge there too. And then lastly, the goal, and I would say that these are in order of priority, is to try to generate an additional conference room that could cross as not only maybe attorney-client meeting space, but maybe low-level court too, in the event of high courtroom utilization for our 3 primary courtrooms. We think, by the way, all of those things, when blended together, extend the useful life of this building for another 7 to 10 years, likely longer, but it gives us some amount of time to make a more long-term sustainable decision about how and where the courthouse functions in Burke County long-term. Here's just a couple optics to illustrate what I was talking about. These are the hallways in the district attorney's office, and I would tell you that most of the files in those banker boxes are highly sensitive. Ongoing investigations, oftentimes cross-functional with other agencies that may be pairing, and these aren't things that can be disposed of. That's their primary hallway. Here's a couple photos of the clerk's available storage, and again, these records are critical. There is some scanning that's going on, but much of these things either have to be kept indefinitely or kept for an extended period of time per state law. And it, again, really begins to cramp their administrative space. And here's an example of some of the underutilized square footage there in the basement. So just 3 photos. We could go through many, many more, but to hopefully put some level of illustration with what we're asserting. Talking briefly about the procurement model, because we have a fixed budget on this project, as I remind the board, we discussed it pre-agenda. We have a fixed $2.1 million budget recommended for this project. None of that is local money. We have $1 million in federal dollars, federal capital grants, and we have $1.1 million in a 2022 state SCIF grant. That's essentially surplus sales tax collections from across the state. It's earmarked specifically for the Burke County Courthouse. It can't be used in any other way. When you combine those two, we know we have $2.1 million. We're trying to stretch that as far as we can, given those principles and given those goals. But that's why we think this design build procurement model makes the most sense, because we're able to present a fixed budget to a design team with our goals and allow them to help us systematically apply that in a way that accomplishes what we're trying to do. As we move through it, again, here's kind of the funding source that we were talking about. As we move through it, we think it's about a 12-month project. So we feel like, barring unforeseens, which often happen when you start peeling back layers of a 50-year building, electrical wiring and those type of things, often there's more unknowns behind some of those walls than knowns. But generally speaking, we think this is accomplishable over about a 12-month period. I mentioned that on January the 10th, this team interviewed qualified firms and have recommended approval with a joint venture of Holland & Hamrick as the design team and Beam Construction as the construction arm. You can see the requested commissioner action there, but as a project summary, our goal is to address that building infrastructure, space decompression, likely some additional courtroom space. This doesn't include a local funding arm, and we think we can be substantially complete, plus or minus 12 months. All that being said, impacting what we think is 12 to 15,000 square feet in total. Again, Mr. Chairman, with your permission, I'd like to invite clerk up and allow her to speak to the need of this building as a day-to-day stakeholder, but I'm also happy to answer any questions you or the board may have.
Thank you. Welcome, Crystal. Appreciate you being with us tonight.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be here to speak to you in regards of the upcoming improvements at the courthouse. And I don't know if you remember, but for the past year or so, maybe longer, I've been looking and talking about improvements that need to be made at the courthouse for additional space. I've worked in that building for over 17 years, and I feel like I know every nook and cranny in that building. Our filings are not slowing down. If anything, they're growing, and we have to house those filings, like Brian said, by statute for so many years. Now, we have really revved up our purging process. This past year, we've sent over 100 boxes of files that we could purge to Raleigh to be able to make more space, but it's just not enough right now. Space is extremely limited for file storage, but perhaps more importantly, space is limited for the public use. The lobby area just cannot accommodate the amount of people that are coming in through the doors. There's no space there when someone needs to come in and file paperwork. They need to have a place to sit down, write out their paperwork, and turn it back into us. There is no private area for them to do that. As a matter of fact, while they're sitting there, other people are practically walking over them to be able to get assistance from one of the divisions there. Because of COVID, we had to make some changes and make it safe for everyone, so we had to limit our access even more. When asked, Brian asked me about a year ago, what do you think it will take for the courthouse to be functional for the next maybe 8 to 10 years. And I already had those ideas in my head. If you know me, this does not stop. It just keeps going and going. But the plans that I had were exactly what Brian said. To renovate the basement, that is just wasted space right now. It's just sitting there. It could be used for either offices or storage, and I propose both. The DA's office has graciously agreed to go downstairs for their offices. They would have plenty of space. They would have plenty of office space, plenty of storage space, which would leave the back hallway open for my estate's office to be able to move back there. So that way all of the clerk's office is back in one area. We're back in the courthouse area where we should be together. And then that leaves the annex area. We already have a large courtroom over there, but that leaves a wide open space for us to be able to put another courtroom, to be able to put another judge's office, which we're going to have, and maybe some attorney-client conference rooms over there. I know that our money is limited, but I believe this is the best plan for the money. I think that's how we stretch this money and make as much happen there as we can. And I do believe with these changes that our building will remain functional and be good to go for the next, I don't know, maybe up to 10 years. And I hope I'm around to see it. So thank you for your time. And I'm just extremely honored and privileged to be a part of, I feel like we're making history again, and I'm just honored to be a part of it. So thank you.
Right, thank you, Crystal. And Crystal, if you'll just stand by just a moment, and Brian, I'll open the floor questions. Any questions for Crystal and Brian on this letter?
Mr. Epley, the cost, the total cost, does that include paying for the RFQ and beams?
Yes.
Their portions, that includes everything,
Yes.
doesn't it?
Typically, design construction is a percentage of the construction budget, so that'll be a component.
Other questions? All right, seeing here now, thank you all very much for your information. Gentlemen, entertain a motion on this item.
Mr. Chairman, I move to award the request for qualifications for design, build, construction, development services for renovations to the Burke County Courthouse to Beam Construction Company, Inc., Holland and Hamrick Architects, PA. Further authorize the county manager to negotiate and execute the contract on behalf of the board, subject to review and/or revisions by the county attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. Madam Clerk, that's 5-0. This brings us to item number 2, amendments to rules of procedure, rule number 10 in our board's rules of procedure. I'll speak to that item for just a moment. Gentlemen, this would make it more clear that that we do have the authority or make it clear that we can take action on certain items that might become sensitive or need action before our regular meeting. That would allow us to take action in our pre-agenda meeting. We discussed that at our pre-agenda meeting. Any questions or comments about that item? All right, none. I'll entertain a motion on this item.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the change to Rule 10, pre-agenda meetings of the 2024 suggested rules of procedures presented with the inclusion of the following text. However, excuse me, I'm on the right page here. However, at the discretion of the chair, any decision item set forth in the agenda packet may be acted upon during the pre-agenda meeting if the matter is considered to be time sensitive or waiting until the regular meeting may be detrimental to the county.
Thank you, Commissioner Smith. All those in favor of this motion signify by the uplifted hand. Madam Clerk, that's 5-0. This brings us to item number 10 from our Health Department, approval of temporary harbor program coordinator position and budget amendment number 6. This will be presented by Katie Barnaday. Good evening, Katie. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you all for allowing me to be on the agenda this evening. I'm bringing to you a request to approve a full-time employee position for the harbor coordinator. This position comes from a BJA Bureau for Justice Administration grant that we received in 2019 in partnership with Burke Recovery, Catawba Valley Health, and Burke United Christian Ministry. So that grant was originally what they call a COSUP grant. It's a site-based grant, and was intended to set up a recovery community center in the community. So fast forward, we got it in fall of 2019, and then 2020, COVID happens. So it shut down a lot of progress that the grant could have potentially had with having site-based services. So last year, we also applied for a continuation grant for our Burke Recovery Court, and that request or the application was denied. So we had to revisit the BJA grants that we already had, and we combined the Recovery Court grant and the Harbor grant to be under the same BJA grant so that we could continue recovery court services, and then also reestablish the original intent for Harbor. And Harbor stands for Helping Achieve Recovery in Burke County Through Opioid Use Reduction. So we went back in and did a budget modification with BJA, and got the recovery court portion of it approved, and then the Harbor coordinator position approved under the health department. So we can actually hire that person internally. And at the same time, we've also applied for another grant to help us establish that community recovery center, which would be like a drop-in center and has different types of programming, where we could do different suicide prevention classes, naloxone training, or just have a safe place for people to come. So if we are able to receive that grant, it would supplement the Harbor grant that we already have also. So I'm really excited to present this to you today for approval, because it will truly be progress for Burke County taking ownership of and managing some behavioral health services inside the county and not depending on anybody else, but we're doing it here. We're owning it and taking responsibility for these things, and we're really proud to be able to work with our community partners and help keep this Harbor program going.
All right, thank you, Katie. Any questions for Katie on this matter? Seeing here none, I'll entertain a motion on this item.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the creation of a temporary grant-funded position, Human Services Coordinator 2, also known as the Harbor Program Coordinator, and approve the budget amendment number 6 as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Carswell. All those in favor, please signify by the F50 hand. Madam Clerk, that's 5-0. Thank you, Katie. Appreciate you being here. This brings us to reports and comments tonight. And at this time, I'll open the floor to receive reports and comments from the board and staff. I'll start way down there with Ms. Pierce.
No comments, just hope everybody stays warm.
Thank you. Mr. Attorney?
Nothing from me tonight, thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. On behalf of the Animal Services Foundation Board of Directors, I am pleased to announce the second annual Wolf Stock event at Silver Fork Winery, May 19th from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Mark your calendars.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. Manager?
Nothing for me, sir. Thank you so much.
Mr. Schmidt?
I'd just like to thank everybody for another year of life, and I hope everybody has a happy new year, safe, happy, and healthy.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Burns?
Mr. Chairman, I have nothing to report this morning.
Mr. Carswell? Would you like to make any report on your trip to Washington?
It was one of the greatest things that's ever happened to me in my life to go to Washington, D.C. I spent one day with Senator Budd and Senator Tillis and Representative Patrick, who is retiring and going home. So it was just a great meeting there. We talked about financing for some of the projects in Burke County. I did make the opening speech at the opioid session for NACO, along with Dr. Rahul Gupta, who works for President Biden as the drug czar. I was very fortunate to be asked to do that. That set the tone for the entire week for the meetings that we had. I also attended a function at the White House where we met Secretary Pete Buttigieg and John Podesta and Tom
Perez. Thank you, Randy. Tom Perez. It was just a great meeting where all the counties were, Burke County and North Carolina were actually invited to the back room for private meetings with these people before we actually went into session with those. Thursday evening was one of the greatest highlights of anybody's life, I guess, for NACO and for NCCE. We were invited to the British consulate for supper, where we were seated. North Carolina was at the head table with the British ambassador, and that was really a treat. The Brits have decided they're not working as closely with the federal government, and they've decided they want to work with state and local governments to further their cause and some cooperation and some efforts that are happening between Great Britain. The ambassador was from Wales, and he was a young fellow, but he was just absolutely a great guy. It was a very enlightening week. I've got to tell Jim Wilson, I now have my library card. He always fussed at me for not having my library card, but I got a library card from the Library of Congress. So it was a great, that building is just so full of architecture, it's unreal. So we accomplished a lot. North Carolina is in the forefront in the opioid movements, contrary to what's been thrown about in some arenas that we've not done a good job. We've done everything that we can do. We still have a lot of work in front of us. I presented my presidential initiative of One More Thing. I was asked to go to several different states, which I'm just not going to be able to go to make these presentations on One More Thing. So we are working with NACO, and I will be going back to Washington, D.C. to make some presentations with NACO on One More Thing. You can go to the NACO website if you so desire, and you can see my presentation speech along with Dr. Gupta on the original day. So I think I tried very hard to represent Burke County well, and I tried very hard to represent North Carolina well, and I think we actually did that. So I'm very appreciative of Kevin Linder going with me. I hope I don't have to come back into Charlotte on a plane like I did this time with the weather the way it was. I did say a prayer. I asked God to give me about 15 minutes of level flight so my stomach would go back where it was supposed to be. That was tough, but I'm very honored and humbled to represent Burke County in North Carolina.
All right, thank you, Mr. Carter. Appreciate again what you do for us in Burke County and Raleigh, and making this trip to represent Burke County and North Carolina at the National Association of Counties in Washington, D.C. Again, appreciate your work and your extra effort. Mr. Vice Chair.
I really don't want to follow that up. But no, just we've been proud of Johnny for a long time, and people don't see the work that goes on. Johnny's, I'm on the executive board down there. Johnny's put us on, Randy as well, and so we're going to a meeting later this week. But there's a lot of hours and time that he's put in, not just statewide, but nationally. And I know the people that have been asking him to go all over the country, very time consuming, but he's been passionate and willing and giving of his time. And like I said, he can't say enough about it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. I don't have anything else tonight other than I'd like to recognize Commissioner Smith for having made another birthday in the last few days. I wish him happy birthday tonight. And thank you, sir. With that, we might make some other courtesy reminders. February the 6th, Board of Commissioners pre-agenda meeting at 3 o'clock. February 16th, ribbon cutting for the East Burke Waste and Recycling Convenience Center. Would invite folks to see our new recycling center there. February the 20th, Board of Commissioners regular meeting at 6 o'clock. I remind folks to take care of your pets, spay and neuter, and adopt pets from our animal services. Again, reminder to take care of your trash, and as you're going to our convenience sites and the landfill, please take time to be sure your trash is secured in your vehicle and it stays there until you get to where it needs to be. And if you see some trash, it'll be all right. Just pick that up and help Burke County to look its best. Madam Clerk, I'll recognize you for vacancy announcements.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, ladies and gentlemen of the audience. We have the following opportunities for citizens to be engaged in county boards and committees: the Adult Care and Nursing Home Community Advisory Committee, the City of Morganton Board of Adjustment and Planning Board for the ETJ, Council on Aging, Burke County Board of Health, Hickory Regional Planning Commission, and the Drexel Planning Board for the ETJ alternate.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. Lots of opportunities to serve in your community and in our county. I would invite you to consider doing that. If you need help, our clerk would be delighted to help you with that. Closed session is not needed tonight. So with that, gentlemen, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. That's all of us, Madam Clerk. Thank you very much. Have a good evening. Appreciate your attendance tonight.